There are some stories that you can't get out of your head, no matter how hard you try. They are like the roots of a tree, working their way deep into your subconscious. This is one of those stories. It didn't start out this way, of course, because most things never do. Like a young sapling, it flourished until finally producing foliage, and then it became time to pick the fruit. The only way that it can be harvested and released you from its unyielding vines is if you tell it. So that's exactly what I intend to do. Before my husband, Leon, and I got married and had our daughter, we used to take a lot of romantic weekend getaways, mostly in and around the 4 states area. We both lived in Idaho, Oklahoma back in 2012, so planning a trip to somewhere like Queen Wilhelmina wasn't all that hard. After saving up our money for 4 months though, we decided to do something different and head towards the rustic scenery of the Ozarks. Leon insisted that the entire thing be planned by him, because we hadn't gotten a chance to celebrate our 1-year dating anniversary. And even though I felt like I could predict where he would take me, I let him have his fun. We grew up as childhood sweethearts, and during high school developed a relationship. What really drew us together was our mutual love of camping. He knew more than anything that my dream was to experience the great outdoors every day if I could. So when he announced that he had found the perfect isolated cabin for the 2 of us to stay, I was ecstatic. And that excitement only increased when I realized that the private lodge was designed like a treehouse. Valley View Treetops got about 3.5 stars online. Not bad for a place that apparently was only 3 years old. The pictures showed it was a secluded park-like area with about 8 or 9 suites available, and a few more under construction. Ours, which was suite number 3, had a majestic view of the expansive forest that covered most of the east horizon. When we arrived, I was pleased to learn Leon and I were pretty much the only guests booked for the next 4 days, so we could have the campsite to ourselves. It reminded me of one of those tree houses you might see in a DIY channel, an elaborate staircase rising from the ground for us to reach our private bungalow. While Leon was unpacking our bags, I took a minute to walk around the spacious interior and open the blinds. When I opened the window near the back of the cabin, I was a bit surprised to see another treehouse a little bit deeper in the southeast ravine. A little far older than the other models we had driven past, with the large branches of the hickory pines almost swallowing it whole. The construction of the treehouse looked like it was meant to resemble one that a child might build with a solitary window and a rope ladder used to climb inside. With the windows boarded up and the foundation clearly decaying, I figured it was probably some idea the lodge had concocted to draw more customers, but it had never grown popular. When Leon had finished bringing the bags upstairs, I pointed it out to him and he gave it a curious stare. "Huh, kinda spooky looking, isn't it?" he commented. I gave him a smile, but I did have the guts to admit that it made me feel uncomfortable to have our window open, so I closed it and I fell into his arms. I wasn't about to let some weird abandoned bed and breakfast ruin our trip. After a round of making love, I took a shower and I walked back down to the car to get my camera gear, wearing nothing but a shower robe. I figured since we were the only ones there, it wouldn't hurt. But my hopes were dashed as soon as I got to it, when I saw 2 groups of men step out of a white van parked adjacent to the hill. They didn't seem to notice me observing them, so I stood there for about a minute, watching as they set up all sorts of equipment like they were about to film something. My curiosity got the better of me and I grabbed one of Leon's coats out of the trunk and I walked over to them. One of the cameramen spotted me and gave me a friendly smile. I don't know if he was nervous because he found me attractive, but he seemed surprised to see anybody else out here. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he said as he adjusted his ball cap. "What are y'all doing out here?" I said as a soft, chilly breeze filtered in through my wet blonde hair. Before he could answer, another man, shorter and fatter, approached me and smiled broadly before speaking. "Howdy, Franklin Dean is the name. Did you come to try and brave the night at the Valley View Tree of Terror?" he asked with a laugh. I looked at him in puzzlement. and then I saw the cameramen were adjusting their equipment to view the abandoned treehouse just beyond where we were staying. I'm not sure what you're talking about, I admitted honestly. The chubby older man smiled at me and gestures towards the strange dangling suite. That there's the reason we came here, sweetheart. My team and I are a group of expert paranormal investigators. We explore the active sites for spirits in this area, including mountains, swamps, and well, this. He explained as he gestured towards the treehouse again. You think it's haunted? I asked skeptically. It certainly looked like it could be. We got several reports from folks who stayed here. They heard ghostly screams in the night, and the constant sound of something scratching at their window. The other cameraman said as he strolled by with his equipment. I wanted to call their bluff, knowing that I had seen far too many Fox reality shows with a similar premise. They were just trying to cash in on this rundown treehouse without any permission to probably even be there. But I didn't bother with them, and I went back upstairs to tell Leon about our new neighbors. He was flipping through the TV channels while I watched the 5 of them carefully climb the rope ladder to get inside the abandoned cabin. As it grew darker, I noticed that they still hadn't come out, and I commented dryly. I bet they set up some kind of sound booth in there to make ghostly noises. We probably won't get any sleep. Oh, don't worry, I'll protect you, Leon joked. I rolled my eyes and I kissed him before tucking in. Sure enough, about an hour later, the noises I predicted I would hear started to slowly wind their way through our cabin walls and wake me up. These guys are pretty hardcore, I thought as I felt my hair stand on edge. It's not real, I kept telling myself as I heard the whispers and the sound of wailing. And then the noises intensified and I heard scratching on the outside of the cabin. Leon fumbled out of bed and raised the window to get a good look out of it. It looked pitch dark on the inside, but we could still hear the sound of the screams. They were distant, almost old and echoey, like you would have heard them in a typical haunted house. This is annoying. I should go over there and give them a piece of my mind, he insisted. Oh, let them have their fun. Besides, there's other ways that we can distract ourselves, I told him as I yanked him towards the shower. With the water hitting our naked bodies and our loud moans, we were able to drown them out for a few minutes. The rest of the night, we watched television since it seemed that their film shoot wasn't going to be over until morning. The next day, Leanne decided to go talk to them anyway, despite my efforts to just let it go. They probably weren't planning on bothering us anyway, I said as I followed him towards the ravine. He ignored my protests and walked carefully down the side of the pass to reach the rope ladder, even while I followed behind him. The ladder creaked as he went up to the top, and then he started banging on the door to get their attention. Leon, stop, I told him once I reached the top. I want to see how they like it when they get disturbed, he commented as he tried to look past the boarded up windows to catch a glimpse of the 5 men. It doesn't look like anybody's in here, he commented. I don't know, maybe they went out, I suggested, feeling even more uncomfortable in this strange enclosure than I did a moment ago. Before I had a chance to again tell him that we should leave, Leon used his elbow and he knocked out one of the boards to get inside. He pushed himself through the small passage and I waited for only half a second before following him inside. The dark and dank space made it difficult to see anything, but it was clear that we had stepped into some sort of living space. Dust and decay covered the whole room as we stood there, and Leon covered his mouth and nose. A few seconds later, the odor hit me as well, and I realized that it smelled like something had died inside of the suite. It doesn't look like anybody's used this for quite a while, he observed and used his phone to shine a light towards the ceiling. Roots were growing in from the tree as we stepped into the kitchen. When we got there, I saw something shimmer near the kitchen table and he focused his light in on it. Both of us stood frozen as we looked at the strange ensemble of vines that covered what seemed to take a human form slumped over onto a plate. As we got closer, I examined the man's face and realized it was one of the cameramen that I had seen. "Leon, he's been dead for a while," I said, my heart racing as we looked about the strange open space. In the next room was the master bed, where Leon was staring at the paintings on the back of the wall. I looked as well, as I saw what seemed to be 4 strange dark roots encasing 4 individuals in the bark. "They died here. They all died," he muttered as he prepared to leave. "How did it take their bodies so quickly?" I asked, looking towards the table again and seeing what appeared to be a toppled-over camera near the man's foot. I couldn't help myself and I propped the camera up, surprised that it still had battery life. Leon was tugging at my arm to leave, but I simply had to press play. The video came to life and filled with static, and I saw the 5 men standing in the dining room, smiling at each other excitedly. They were getting ready to set up their other cameras and film the strange events of the treehouse. One of the cameramen focused on the odd roots that were seen entangling the roof and he commented, "It seems like every minute we stay here, they move." And then something else shocked me. Another man commented on how excited he was about the up-and-coming election. That was well over a year ago, I thought as I watched them start to film. The video clipped and became distorted as Leon and I watched the men experience a phenomenon I can't even describe. The treehouse was coming to life, ensnaring them in its grasp. One of them was mashed into the wall before he could run away. Another felt the roots tighten around his body as he filmed. "Help us, please, somebody, we're stuck here," Franklin the director shouted at the camera, as though he knew we were there, like he was speaking to us right now. "We need to go," Leon said. I felt the treehouse watching us, but I couldn't resist. I took the memory card out of the camera and I raced towards the exit alongside him. The soft screams were whistling through the vines and we hurriedly climbed back down. Leon caught his breath as we stood there, and I looked up towards the strange enclosure, trying to make sense of what we had just seen. "It's a trick. They set all this up to just scare us, because otherwise we'd be dead too, right?" I muttered softly. I flicked the memory card in between my fingers, desperately wanting to see the rest of the video. He said nothing as we walked back to our own cabin, but I always felt like the abandoned treehouse was watching us. That night, as he took a shower to calm his nerves, curiosity got the better of me and I inserted the next memory card. I watched in silence as the video showed one of the men laughing madly and then the roots springing out of his mouth and eyes. And then it changed perspective, as though some unseen force was guiding the imagery. And I saw myself. In the video, I was kissing Leon, pushing him towards the shower, making love to him while this ethereal force watched on in silence. I closed the video and I tossed it towards the ground in horror. I ran towards Leon and I told him that I wanted to leave immediately. He tried to reassure me that it was all just a trick of the camera while we walked towards the car. But then we looked towards the east ravine and the treehouse was no more. We did not ask for our security deposit back.